So I just got back from seeing Matrix Resurrections. I got to go to see an early screening of it. And this will be a spoiler review. I'm not going to really drop any big bombshells as far as I can see, but I'll be going into some details that I wouldn't feel comfortable putting under a non-spoiler review. So if you haven't seen Matrix Resurrection and you want to go into this film completely fresh, probably turn off this video until you've seen it. Now, I'm going to be really interested to see what the die-hard Matrix fans think of this film once they've seen it, because while I am a fan of The Matrix, I don't think I am a die-hard fan. I see it as this very cool, entertaining action movie with a very interesting plot and some creative themes, but I don't see it as one of the greatest movies of all time. I see what it did for cinema, and I do appreciate that, but I do think it kind of has a reputation a bit more than it actually reaches. And I actually like the two sequels that followed it. I think those get a bit too much hate. I think those also have a lot of things going for it that I really appreciated. They're probably not quite as good as the first one, but I don't think there's as sharp of a difference as some people might say. Now, for this movie, I'd say I'm mostly positive towards it. I really like the premise of this whole idea that Neo's been kind of trapped in the cycle, or treadmill as they put it, where he's just kind of been convinced that he's once again, they just put him back in the Matrix and once again make him think that this is reality. And I really like the idea that the machines made the story of the Matrix, as we saw in the original trilogy, an actual fictitious story within that computer world. And that's a really good way of kind of keeping people from figuring out that this is all fake. Because when people say, oh, the Matrix, they're like, well, yeah, what, the video game that guy made? Yeah, oh yeah, that's real. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I thought that was a really intriguing idea. And I really kind of found it very intriguing seeing Neo kind of trying to figure out whether he's crazy or if the world really isn't what it's all made up to be. And I think I really like the world building in this. I like how they kind of evolved the relationship between the humans and the machines. Some machines work with the humans while other machines continue to evolve in the way they try to keep the humans supplanted in the Matrix and continue to mix up their methods and evolve. I found that aspect really interesting. I think maybe there are a bit too many similarities or callbacks to moments in the original Matrix. It follows that pattern a bit too closely, but I do think it mixes up just enough that it doesn't bother me too much. The action, I'll have to say, isn't great. I think it's kind of just meh, which is really disappointing because the action of the original trilogy is one of its best aspects, but they completely changed the way that they film the action. In the original trilogy, they have very wide shots and they cut very sparingly so that you can really appreciate the choreography. And this has the exact opposite approach. It's a lot of very close-up shots and it cuts constantly, and it honestly takes what I loved about how action was shot in the original trilogy and just shoots it like all the other generic action movies, and that was kind of disappointing. I also think this movie overdoes bringing back previous characters. Obviously the main characters of Neo and Trinity, that makes sense, and there are some characters they bring back that I do think feel like they naturally fit in. Niobe, played by Jada Pinkett Smith, feels like she's a natural carryover, but there's just a few characters that I'm why did they need to come back? Agent Smith, why did they need to bring back Agent Smith? Maybe I'd be cool with it if it felt like it was Agent Smith, but it's not Hugo Weaving, and Jonathan Groff's not even trying to act like Agent Smith. He feels like a completely different character, and sure, maybe he's adapted and he's not acting the same way that he did previously, but whenever he's talking to Neo and they talk about how they have this whole past, I just don't feel it, and he feels just obligatory pushing. I felt Agent Smith's story ended at the end of the last movie, and I didn't feel like he really needed to carry over, and I just don't feel like it's him. Maybe I would feel different if this was Hugo Weaving and he actually felt like the same character, but it just doesn't work for me. The idea that the machines have kind of connected him and Neo, chained them together, that's kind of a funny little idea, but it just doesn't work for me, because it doesn't feel like the character. Also, they have the Merovingian show up, I think just because the actor was willing to come back. I feel like they say, hey, who's it from the original trilogy? Can we get back? Hey, this guy will come back. Okay, let's just throw him in there. He feels just like a pointless cameo. And I like the Merovingian in the last two movies, but he just felt pointless in here. The structure doesn't always work for me. I will say, I was kind of going in and out, like, in my engagement level. I'd say for like the first half I was actively engaged, and in the second half I was a little bit more waning, but I still say I had a good time with this movie. And I think the story between the characters, like the relationship between Neo and Trinity and them trying to get back together and trying to escape the trap that the machines have set for them, was really interesting. And I definitely kind of was glad I got to see it. So while I am leaning more positive towards this movie, I don't necessarily think the movie justifies its own existence. Like, in the end, I do kind of prefer this series ending with the third film compared to this. Like, it's nice that there's a bit more of a happy ending between Neo and Trinity, that they're not dead and they get to be together. But I kind of like the tragic, bittersweet ending of the third film, and I think this kind of loses the kind of finality that we had with that last film. Like, maybe they'll make more sequels to this and the story will continue, but just taking this as this is the last Matrix movie, I kind of preferred how things ended with the third film. But if you guys got to go see this movie, let me know what you thought. I'm interested to hear other people's opinion about this movie. And I will be including a link to my Letterboxd account if anyone else wants to see like the movies that I don't review on this channel, because I know I am a bit sparing about what movies I make actual video reviews for. So if you go to my Letterboxd account, you can see reviews for new movies that I actually type out on my Letterboxd account. But other than that, I will see you on my next video. Bye!